follower from Romania sent me this story, and after reading it, I honestly understand why people call the Hoia Baciu forest the most haunted forest on Earth. This is for entertainment purposes only. There's no way for me to validate it, so enjoy. Now, what's creepy isn't that they saw a ghost. It's whatever was out there that seemed to know exactly where they were for 2 straight days. So this story takes place in October of 2024, and the guy who sent it to me, who I will call Adrian, said he and his friend Mahai were amateur paranormal investigators, not influencers, not YouTubers, just 2 guys who were fascinated by strange things, and they did it in their spare time. So they decided to spend a weekend camping deep inside of Romania's Hoia Baciu forest. And if you've never heard of it, locals have reported missing time, strange lights, voices, UFOs, weird supernatural experiences, and people that have been vanishing in there for centuries. Now, Adrian said the first day was completely normal. They hiked several miles in, set up camp, took photos, and they recorded some EVPs, and they explored the area. Nothing unusual or supernatural happened, and in fact, by sunset, they were joking that, the forest's reputation was completely overblown because they haven't experienced anything yet. Then around midnight, they heard something walking around the outside of their camp. Not like a crashing through the woods type of sound, just a slow pacing, like someone was circling them. They shined their flashlights into the darkness, but never saw anyone. The footsteps would stop whenever the light landed near them, and then it would start again once the light moved away. So this continued for nearly, I would say maybe about an hour, hour and a half, they said. And eventually it stopped. Neither of them slept much that night, and the next morning they noticed something really strange. A backpack that they had left outside of the tent was gone. And at first they assumed that one of them maybe had moved it and misplaced it, but neither of them had. They spent nearly an hour searching before finding it about 200 yards away from where they were, sitting upright between 2 trees. Nothing inside was missing. It just simply had been taken from one place to another. And there was enough to make, them start to think and feel uneasy, but they ended up staying again. And that night things got even worse, and much, much worse, because around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, Adrian woke up because he heard what he thought was his friend whispering his name from outside of the tent. The problem was his friend was passed out next to him, and Adrian shook him awake, and his friend immediately woke up and told him, stop joking around, this isn't funny. And he thought that it was Adrian who had been whispering. So both of them had heard this voice whispering, and neither of them had made the sound at all. And then came the footsteps again. They were much closer this time, and they were much closer than the night before, again circling the tent over and over, the same pattern as the night before. Adrian said that they could hear leaves being pressed down only a few feet away from them, and then everything went completely silent for several seconds. And then something grabbed the outside of the tent, not like a hard like a really hard grab, just enough, dragging its fingers slowly across the fabric of the tent. And it went from one side across to the other. Neither of them moved, neither of them spoke, and they simply just sat there listening in fear as to what was going on around them. And then the sound stopped, and then they heard what sounded like somebody running away through the trees, but it was like somebody was sprinting back and forth through the trees. And then at sunrise they packed up their gear and they decided, we're done, we're going home. But when they started gathering their belongings, his friend's camera was missing, and they searched everywhere for it, and nothing came up. There were no tracks, no sign of another person. The camera simply just vanished. The 2 men immediately began hiking back toward the trailhead, and that's when they realized something else was wrong. The forest was completely quiet, and if you've ever been out in the woods, and when the forest goes quiet, that's when you listen. There were no birds, no insects, nothing. And for nearly 2 hours, they had the overwhelming feeling that they were being followed by something. They kept noticing movement in the corner of their eyes as they were walking, like a dark shape slipping behind trees, a figure standing where they had just came from behind them, always far enough away that they couldn't be certain at what they were seeing, but, they just kept pressing on. And finally they reached the parking area, and as they loaded their gear into the car, Adrian looked back toward the tree line again, and standing between 2 trees was what appeared to be a person. He couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman or what, but they were just standing completely still watching them, too far away to identify and too motionless to feel normal. He said that was probably what felt like the most supernatural point of the whole night. And the moment that he pointed it out to his friend, it stepped behind a tree and it never emerged again. Now, a week later, his friend received a package at his apartment. There was no return address, and inside was his missing camera. The memory card had been removed, and taped to the camera was a small handwritten note that read, "Come back alone." And neither of them has ever returned to Hoia Baciu Forest, and according to Adrian, neither of them have any plans to ever return again. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.